Welcome to the ODDSBREAKER'S #1 place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 74 of 2020. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can follow me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at the ODDSBREAKERS. And follow us on social media / the ODDSBREAKERS. This episode is being brought to you by jazzsports.ag. For a 100% sign-up bonus, please visit Jazz Sports and use the promo code ODDSBREAKERS. Terms and conditions apply. If you'd like to help us out with our costs and sponsor the website of the podcast, we would love to help you out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, and become a member. For $24.99 a month, you can get my plays and premium plays before the line moves. If nothing else, please visit theoddsbreakers.com and become a free picks newsletter subscriber. And man, has our free picks been going well for the website picks. In college, the last 2 weeks, we were 6-0. And going back farther, we've been killing them too. So I just got some credit from a listener about the 6-0. And then he mentioned that we've been on fire. So I'm guessing that it's been pretty good. I just monitor all the picks mostly. I don't always just monitor free picks. But looks like we were 2-1 in the NFL too. And we did great last week in the pros. So that's awesome. Been on fire. As far as all picks in general, kind of schmedium this week. We were down a little bit in the NFL, 3-4, but we have one play going tonight with the Steelers and the Washington football team, so that could even it out in the NFL. And we were 8-7 in college, but we hit most of our big plays, so that was good. 2-2 in money line sprinkles, and you know those plus monies is definitely a good thing. So not a huge weekend for us betting, but definitely a fun one, and lots of things actually happened this week. And we can start right away with the NFL. Cover zero. Cover zero. You know what cover zero means, guys? Cover zero means all out blitz. All right? All out blitz. And you know what Greg Williams did when the Raiders had 5 to 15 seconds left? I believe it was at the most 15 seconds left, pretty much one play left to get into the end zone. 40-plus yards to go. One shot. They blitzed everybody. No safeties. Leaving wide open Henry Ruggs to catch the touchdown and win the game.
Unreal.
I mean, one unreal doesn't even do it justice.
Unreal. Unreal. Unreal.
Are you kidding me? The worst possible play call that you can call is to not guard deep in that situation. And Carr was smart enough to throw the ball a little bit higher because he had a little bit less time because of the blitz. Sometimes blitz gets picked up pretty good, by the way, Mr. Greg Williams. And throw the ball so Ruggs catches up to it, catches it in the end zone for the go-ahead touchdown, saving everybody's survivors and saving my ass on my teaser.
Unreal.
You know, I shouldn't have even took that bet. Had a little bit on the Raiders as well at the 7.5. Awful play. That was bugging me after I made that play. When I gave that out the teaser, I was like, the Jets are desperate. I'm going against a desperate team here. The Raiders, you think it's a bounce back spot after getting their asses kicked. But something happened after that Kansas City game where they couldn't quite win it. They gave it their all out, and it just kind of deflated the team. And they went back into old, bad Raiders type shit. So, you know, it is what it is, and that's usually something that doesn't happen where you win your teaser at the last second. Of course, I teased it with the Packers, a real competent team, but was happy about that. At the same time, poor Jets. You know, I mean, that was such a bad play call. It's never been done in the history of the NFL, I don't think, an all-out blitz when the deep pass is what you need. I mean, when a team blitzes, quarterback's audible to the hot route, it's a go route, so they can kind of get past the corner and just catch it and clears path, end zone, no safeties there. That's what you usually do on an all-out blitz. Sometimes a quick slant gets you there. Nobody in the middle, right? Instead, they do the opposite. And that was just awful. You know, the linebacker for the Raiders, I'm sorry, for the Jets, said he thought about audibling, but you didn't. And how the hell could you do that when your defensive coordinator calls that at the end of the game? You can't change that play. I mean, how are these guys, how do they have jobs? And I know Greg Williams has a history of being a good defense coordinator, and Sean Payton and a couple other coaches. But Jesus, how do you make such a big error? Maybe it's just the pressure of the situation itself, where you just kind of forget the fundamentals of everything. It kind of happened with the Bears on 3rd and 4, even though they almost blew the lead. Well, they did blow the lead by letting the Lions back in the game. They still could have just ran it and punted, or possibly got a 4-yard run and got the first down against a terrible Lions run D. And instead, they do a shotgun snap to Trubisky. The worst thing you can do, because he's fumble prone. And what does he do? He fumbles. He gets hit in the red zone of the Lions. I mean, you can't make this shit up. How awful these coaches are in the NFL. I am shocked. But either way, it was kind of a crazy NFL weekend, as it is. You know, we went 3-4, and we have one more play. Hopefully it evens out at 4-4 tonight. But I am shocked that that these guys are still coaching. Adam Gase is still coaching. And the only thing I can figure is that the Jets kind of want to get the first pick of the draft. I guess they would have took the win yesterday, so they don't have to have an embarrassing 0-win season. Doesn't happen too often. I think the Lions were the last team to do that, you know. But, you know, it just boggles my mind why they keep Gase, except it must be that they really secretly want the number 1 pick, because Gase ain't that good of a coach. But even Gase was smart enough to know that that was the worst possible play call you could have in a desperate situation, because Gase ain't tanking. He's trying to win the game because he has nothing else to do. He knows his ass is going to be shipped off next year. So, man, was that crazy in the NFL. Other crazy things, the Giants, where the hell are they coming from? Colt McCoy comes into Seattle and beats Russell Wilson?
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Colt McCoy beating Russell Wilson's team in Seattle? Where's this Giants team been all year? You know? Where the hell has this Giants team been all year? The Giants are, I believe, 5-7 now. Quietly leading the division. They also beat the Bengals, which ain't that good. They almost beat the Eagles twice. They should have. They beat the Eagles once. You know? I mean, they got a shot here. I remember when they went to the Rams and only lost by 8 points. And you know how good the Rams are this year. You know? The Giants are sneaky. Sneaky. But they seem to be better on the road than they are at home. They're not going to have to do that much to win this division, leading at 5-7. You know, who do they have on deck? They got the Cardinals. That's kind of it's a winnable game. They're not favorites. They have a shot. They have the Browns. You know, the Browns could be Jekyll and Hyde. Then they go to the Ravens, and that's probably a loss, but the Ravens definitely ain't the Ravens from last year. And then they have the Cowboys at home at the very end, which is another very winnable game. And they barely lost to the Cowboys back in October when the Cowboys were still healthy. You know? So, interesting with the Giants. How about the Chargers scoring 0 points at home to the Patriots scoring 45? Where the hell did that come from, Patriots? And also Chargers, man. Bad day on offense there. I mean, sometimes it just doesn't matter if you have the better team. If you have the worst coach, Lynn compared to Belichick, you're going to lose. Belichick knew their weakness and attacked it. That team is not nearly as good as their coach. I'll tell you that. And that's why you can definitely put a good argument up that Belichick is the best ever. Well, that's what most people say anyway. But for a while when they're losing, they're saying, oh, it was all Tom Brady. Well, now Tom Brady is losing, and it seems to be all Belichick. Let's just face it. They're both great together, and they're both exceptional at their jobs. Brady's getting old, though. Maybe he'll coach. Packers took care of the Eagles, no problem. The Vikings, man, against the Jaguars. The Jags are a little desperate, and Mike Glennon's kind of playing a little bit out of his mind, throwing the ball like his job depends on it, which it actually does. Dolphins took care of the Bengals, barely covering that spread by a half a point. It's about 11.5 most of the week. Congrats to the Dolphins. They are the best ATS team around at 9-3. Somehow they just keep doing it, and they have a nice game against Kansas City where they are dogs at home by 7.5 right now. 7.5. That spread itself worries me. All right. There's going to be so much public money coming in on the Dolphins at 7.5, especially after what the Kansas City Chiefs did against the Denver Broncos, which is not cover or not even come close to covering that 14-point spread. The Browns destroyed the Titans in the first half, but I think the real Browns showed up in the second half and ended up winning 41-35. The Titans really came back that game. Another quarter, they might have won that game. So I found that kind of interesting. So the Aints, they beat the Falcons, covered their spread. That thing went all the way down to 2.5. It was started at like 4, and it went all the way down to 2.5, and they covered. That was a tough one. So much sharp money came in on the Falcons that week. But the Saints just have the Falcons number somehow. They just do. Sean Payton just knows that team in and out. You know, they don't throw their tight end enough over there. They don't throw their running backs enough. If you want to beat the Saints, that's the kind of stuff you have. You can't go against their corners, or their safeties. You have to go low to beat the Saints and fast. Don't get sacked. And obviously the Chicago Bears, like I mentioned before, blow it against the Lions. And as a Bear fan, I must say, probably a blessing in disguise. I was actually kind of happy. I don't want Nagy to look good because he's not good. I don't want Pace to look good because if you've been listening to me for the past 4 years, I've been complaining about Pace even after they had their 2018 season. I was explaining all the faults he had. All those faults are showing right now, proving us right that the Bears hired somebody that actually has no clue or no idea of how to build a football team.
Oh, man. I have no idea what's going on.
So, crazy week in the NFL. It was entertaining, though. It was certainly entertaining to watch the Jets blow that game. As sad as that is, I don't want them to finish 0-16. I want them to get one win. It's just embarrassing to be 0-16, and it would suck for that fan base to have to live with that one for the rest of their lives. Or who knows, maybe they even want it and they're so disgusted with the organization. College football scores. I mean, Alabama took care of LSU pretty much like nothing. LSU's did a couple of good things, and that's about it. Easily covered the 17 points that we bet the first half on Alabama. Was a premium play. I'm pretty pissed about the Clemson one. It was a free subscriber play, minus 13 in the first half. For some reason, they just couldn't get it together in the beginning. They won 45-10, which obviously, do the math on that. The 13 was a good bet. You're looking, they should have had at least 17, 18 point difference if you split that in half. But at the same time, they scored how many unanswered points the whole second half? Like 38 of them, So sometimes the first half bets don't go your way. I definitely like to play them, though, because I think that they are easier to win than full game bets, believe it or not. And but I have to pick my spots for sure. There's going to be a lot less first half bets. Cal beat Oregon. Oregon ended up to be a complete fraud. Now Oregon's got Washington, and they, believe it or not, this game is for, I believe, the Pac-12 North. Washington also lost to Stanford last week as a home favorite of like double digits. I think it was like 13, something like that. And they lost straight up to Stanford. I saw something in Stanford when they beat Cal, and a lot of people were on Stanford, but I couldn't trust them. I couldn't trust betting on them, but at the same time, I didn't want to bet against them. They seemed pretty fired up that week. Coastal Carolina is the story of the weekend. They beat BYU. BYU on a short notice booked this game. Their fans are probably wondering if they should have even done that. I mean, wouldn't it be better to complain about not making the playoffs, being undefeated, rather than proving that you're not deserving by playing a pretty good Coastal Carolina team? And that's what happened. I think BYU was the better team. Just things didn't go their way. You saw that last second almost touchdown they had to go ahead and win that. It was so close. It was a Hail Mary, but things just didn't bounce their way. It's football, But whoever bet Coastal, congratulations. There's a ton of money on BYU. And BYU's got a bounce-back game here against San Diego State. And now you have to decide if BYU is going to be deflated and not care nearly as much about it, or are they just going to get right back up on their feet, get back on the horse and destroy San Diego State. That could very much happen too. So that's a tough one to handicap when these situations happen. Sometimes you just want to stay away from those games in itself. USC's playing a hell of a lot better. They pretty much beat Washington State the whole first half and only scored 3 points the second half. Hell, they didn't really have to play the second half. And Ohio State took care of Michigan State. Very easy game for Ohio State. Michigan State lost by 40 points. Kind of secured Ohio State into the playoffs. As long as the committee thinks they played enough games, of course. I think now it's going to be really hard for the committee to keep them out, especially if they, keep doing this. They have the Big Ten championship against Northwestern coming up. Obviously, Wisconsin, my team lost to Indiana. They look pretty incompetent. Once again, tons of penalties, PI, targeting, PI, roughing the passer, all that. Indiana won on a backup quarterback named Tuttle. He did a great job. Wisconsin didn't. Wisconsin turned the ball over. There's missed blocks. You're looking at a team that's played 3 games in 3 months before this. I don't know if that's just the rust in them, but there was receivers not even going to the right positions where Mertz was throwing it. I don't know which communication was wrong. Was it Mertz or the receivers? Only the coaches really know that. I mean, if I really knew their playbook that well, I think some of them was the receivers. Some of them Mertz just overthrew too. He's young. He's got his got to get the kinks out. I still like his footwork. I love the strength of his arm. I love that he can run the ball. Still has the makings of being a great quarterback. It's just not the year, and his receivers are very bad. They just can't get open this game. But at the same time, Wisconsin's saying that Indiana knew their plays. I don't believe that. I think Indiana just studied the film better, and they outcoached Paul Chryst. I mean, this offense looked absolutely lethargic. Where the hell was the jet sweep? And maybe it's because their receiver, Danny Davis, was out, who runs the jet sweep. But you have to run it to somebody else in practice because that play kills a lot of teams. They destroyed Michigan over it. Why aren't you running it against Indiana? Yeah, where was that? Where was that play? Instead you're kind of playing into Indiana's arms, right? Receivers out of position, not looking back for the ball. It just all seems strange to me. But at the same time, the momentum was on Indiana, and I swear that they are pretty happy after beating Wisconsin that game. Iowa took care of Illinois, and this is a losing bet we had. We were on Illinois. Was pretty upset about that one because Illinois was up 14-0. Plus 12.5, plus 13.5, whatever number you got. Illinois was looking to cover that game. And Iowa scores 5 unanswered TDs. Not even a field goal you get out of Illinois, right? Not even a freaking field goal. A field goal would have covered the spread. A freaking field goal. And they couldn't do it. So they finally scored at the end after Iowa scored at the end, but still, 4 unanswered touchdowns it was. And then, 5. Then I think Illinois scored at the end. That's how that thing went down. But Illinois is a better team. They don't have the winning mentality yet. They don't. They can't keep a lead. If Illinois gets a lead, probably a good idea to live bet against this team. Miami beat Duke 48-0. Poor Duke. I think they pretty much called it a season, but Miami has an awesome game against North Carolina coming up this weekend. I am very, very excited to watch that one. Iowa State is now in our college football championship premium members, and I think free members. I gave this out with Chris Felica back I had him on before the season started, and we both took Iowa State. And 12-1 is what we gave that out as, and it looks like we're going to be talking about hedging that. I'll see if I can get Chris back on later this week or possibly next week. He's super busy, obviously, with College Game Day and everything, to discuss what we're going to do for this hedge. I think it's a great topic and a great educational piece for not only listeners, but for us ourselves. We want to figure out the best way to secure a profit with our Iowa State 10-1, 12-1 ticket, and also not give up too many units. Right now I can probably see it'll be Oklahoma minus 250, minus 300-ish, meaning you have to lay 3-1 to make your unit back. You don't love that because 6-1, you have to 6-2 if you want 2 units back. Not fun to do that when you're only at 12-1. So it's going to definitely be an interesting topic, but real excited that we picked that one. Because our Cal pick certainly didn't work. That's our other one. Cal. Anyways, let's get into a little college football misleading final scores. All right, to start college football misleading final scores of Week 14. We'll start out with North Texas. They outgained Louisiana Tech 386-341, yet they lost 42-31. A 1-to-1 turnover ratio was even, but the 11-4 penalty ratio killed them. Tons of penalties. Appalachian State outgained Louisiana 290-227, yet lost 24-21. A 3-0 turnover ratio and 2 missed field goals really hurt Appalachian State. Wisconsin outgained Indiana 342-217 by over 100 yards, yet lost 14-6, a 2-1 turnover ratio, bad red zone efficiency, and an 8-1 penalty ratio killed Wisconsin this game. Bowling Green outgained Akron 295-282, yet lost 31-3. A 3-0 turnover ratio killed them. And not just that, losing to Akron by that much. I don't even know if you can beat the best high school, Bowling Green. I mean, in your state, I would almost think that the best high school would beat you. That's pretty sad. Georgia Tech outgained NC State 412-397, yet lost 23-13. Even turnovers, but a 12-7 penalty ratio and bad efficiency killed them. BYU outgained Coastal Carolina 405-366, yet lost 22-17. Some of those yards were the huge pass at the end, so the yardage was a little bit closer, I would say, so not too misleading. 2-1 turnover ratio killed BYU. Colorado State outgained San Diego State 265-247, yet lost 29-17. A 2-0 turnover ratio hurt them. Clemson only outgained Virginia Tech 433-333, yet won 45-10. A 1-3 turnover ratio helped them a lot, And Virginia Tech has their quarterback beat up in Burmeister, I believe. He's questionable to come back for next week. Braxton Burmeister. So remember that for next game. Next one, we have Baylor outgained Oklahoma 288 to 269, yet lost 27-14. A 2-1 turnover ratio hurt them. Some of those yards were garbage yards as well. Fresno State outgained Nevada 599 to 416. That's a big one. Yet they lost 37 to 26. They also won the turnover battle 2-3. Horrible red zone efficiency did them in. ASU outgained UCLA 442 to 363, yet lost 25 to 18. A 2-0 turnover ratio, 12 to 5 penalty ratio broke them. We are on UCLA. That was good. Wyoming outgained New Mexico 283 to 223, yet lost 17 to 16. A 3-2 turnover ratio hurt them. College football week 15 motivational spots, letdown spots, quite a few of them, starting with Indiana at Purdue after beating Wisconsin. Thought Tom Allen was going to have a heart attack looking at how hard he celebrated after that game. Oh no, I'm not bitter at all. New Mexico is in a letdown spot versus Fresno State after securing their first win against Wyoming. Stanford hit a letdown spot here after beating Washington against Oregon State, so watch for that one coming this weekend. TCU is in a letdown spot after beating Oklahoma State straight up against Louisiana Tech. Who the hell wants to bet on Louisiana Tech, though? Ugh. Someone with some balls is going to bet Louisiana Tech and win next week. You just watch. Akron versus Buffalo after a winning game. They finally won a game. It's a letdown for Akron. I really don't care. They probably know that they're going to get destroyed by Buffalo. Not even sure what kind of Akron team we're going to see. Coastal Carolina is in a letdown spot after beating BYU against Troy. That is a juicy one, too. Get up spots. Anyone that hasn't won a game is in a get up spot. You have UNLV, Louisiana Monroe, Northern Illinois, UMass, Bowling Green, FIU, Kansas, and Vanderbilt. All right. They're in a situation where they haven't won a game. They're going to be playing maybe a little bit out of their mind coming this week. Wisconsin at Iowa has been an embarrassment, and they need this one big time. This is a big get-up spot for Wisconsin. Purdue versus Indiana is a rivalry game. Purdue is in a big get-up spot here. Look-ahead spots. I mean, Alabama could be looking past Arkansas to Florida. At the same time, I mean, Alabama shouldn't have to look past anyone to get to anybody, but it is the championship game they're looking towards. They might just beat up Arkansas for 3 quarters and put all their third stringers in. Who knows? Coastal Carolina looking past Troy to Louisiana is very possible. Coastal Carolina is in a peanut butter and jelly sandwich spot. If I don't bet Troy, please come down and slap me in the face. Florida could look past LSU to Alabama. I kind of doubt it because everybody's taking their turn at LSU this year. You know, LSU is just the whooping boy right now of the SEC after winning the championship. But you never know. I mean, Dan Mullen wants to keep this team healthy for the SEC championship game, which a win would put them in the college football playoffs. So that's pretty huge. And Oklahoma could be looking past West Virginia now that Oklahoma State lost. Very possible due to the Big 12 championship game. I mean, guys, do you think that I should be betting West Virginia this week?
What a stupid question that is. What a stupid question. But I watch you a lot. You ask a lot of stupid questions.
All right, now it's time for a little NFL Week 13 misleading final scores and Week 14 motivational spots. Misleading scores first. The Dolphins outgained the Bengals 406-196, yet only won 19-7. They should have won by more. They also won the turnover battle 2-1. The Texans outgained the Colts 398-371, yet lost 26-20. A 2-0 turnover ratio did them in. Seattle outgained the New York Giants 327-290, yet lost 17-12. A 2-1 turnover ratio hurt them. The LA Chargers were only outgained 291-258, yet lost 45-0. A 2-0 turnover ratio, also terrible efficiency in the red zone, hurt the Chargers. Motivational spots. Let down spots. The Giants could let down against the Cardinals after beating Seattle outright. The Lions could let down versus the Packers after the second win versus the Bears. And obviously they got that fire your coach bump last week. Get up spots. The Buccaneers better get up versus the Vikings this week, or else they're going to be in some trouble. The Titans versus the Jags were embarrassed by the Browns. Stupid mistakes killed them. Get up spot for the Titans. Look ahead spots. The Saints could be looking past the Eagles to the Chiefs. So definitely don't want to be on the Saints unless the spread obviously makes up for that. Big discrepancy I would need in the spread to bet on the Saints this week. Let's go right to Northwestern Wildcats hosting the Fighting Illini. This game is kind of a rivalry here. Obviously, the Big Ten for the bragging rights of the state of Illinois. Northwestern won it last year by a lot. I think it was like 24-7, double-digit victory. Illinois is certainly an improved team, but Northwestern has been great on defense. They're one of the top 3 teams against the pass. Scratch that. They are the top team against the pass for passing yards per attempt, only allowing 5 yards per attempt. All right. They're not too shabby against the run either, if we all know, only allowing 3.67 yards per run. Now, they're also not that great on offense, right? They're not exactly lighting it up at 4.36 yards per play. That's pretty low. I mean, what's funny about Northwestern is they just get their yards by efficiency. Defenses is forcing turnovers. They're actually negative yards per play, but they're certainly not letting a lot of people in the end zone. Illinois has a terrible defense, but they're a lot more terrible against the pass than they are against the run. And I think that's why Northwestern's going to get stopped a few times this game and not be able to blow out the Illini. Northwestern is a double-digit favorite here. So I lean to Illinois to cover the spread just because the spread is so big compared to a lower total. It's a rivalry game. You lean towards the dog without looking at anything else. But I also think that this game goes under. There's going to be a lot of weather and there's going to be a lot of wind. So your free play is under 46.5 for 1.5 stars. And I like it all the way down to 44.5.
Have you found Jesus yet, Doug?
I didn't know I was supposed to be looking for him, sir.
All right, enough of that. Let's get into a little fantasy football. Week 14 playoffs with our guy D Nasty. All right, now it's time for a little fantasy football. Week 14, Dave, and we are in the playoffs. We have our guy D Nasty back. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing wonderful, man. I'm making it in almost all my playoffs except for about 2 leagues. I think your league and my own league. It's pretty shockingly, but all the rest of my leagues, 8 out of the 10 leagues, I'm going to make the playoffs. So looking good.
I thought you might make yours now that you won.
We'll see. I don't think I will still, but if I do, I do. Okay. I don't like my team this year. Zeke is underperformed, so is Lamar. My team, and then Jonathan Taylor's finally starting to come on now, but we'll see. I think I have a shot if I make it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you definitely have a good shot. anybody does. You just got to get in the playoffs, and then fantasy is so random. You can win it as any seed. It just doesn't matter. That's why the bye weeks are pretty important here. I'm still fighting for my bye because Mostert isn't doing dick for me tonight, and just need like 8 points from Zeke. I should get that, but it is the Ravens, so you never know.
And it is Zeke who's been struggling the last 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, I'm hoping he catches. If he catches like 3 to 4 passes, I think I'm going to get it. But he needs to get 50 yards and a few passes is what I'm starting to think here. So we'll see what happens. It is the Ravens, and the Ravens are definitely not as good as they were last year. Can't believe the Washington football team just witnessed that victory, Dave, and Alex Smith. Holy cow, he's doing pretty good, isn't he?
I like it. A good comeback story, man. You can't help but feel good for the guy.
Oh, totally, man. His leg was freaking shattered. I remember when that happened, how gruesome it was, and I was just couldn't believe. I thought he was done forever, and he comes back, and now he's just balling out, making the team look great, just being a leader, and beating the Steelers. 11-0 Steelers, and I knew the Steelers were a little overrated, but not like super overrated, just not 11-0, that good, right?
Exactly.
So that was interesting. And Chase Young and their defense, pretty legit and really interesting this week because the Giants beat the Seahawks. It was crazy, man.
And some big upsets this week. I was pretty shocked.
No doubt. Well, let's get into fantasy football week 14 so we can help some people and ourselves win a playoff game here. I think that's a huge week for people. So starting out, don't think there's any bye weeks, is there anymore?
No bye weeks this week, so we're all good to go the rest of the year for the playoffs.
All right, well, let's get going with key injuries then, Dave. Looks like I only have 3 injuries, and you might have more, but 3 that barely made my board. DJ Moore has COVID now. So he is probably missing next game. And Darrell Henderson has a banged-up knee. Cam Akers took over and did a great job last week for the most part. Antonio Gibson, he hurt himself today with a toe injury, and he was doubtful to come back. So he's probably highly questionable to come back next week. But that's all I have, Dave. Who else you got?
Curtis Samuel actually as well is on COVID, so two of their starting receivers are going to be out this week. So that might make Robbie Anderson a huge play this week. But yeah, Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore are both going to be out this week. Clyde Edwards-Helaire missed this week's game with a sickness. I don't know if it's COVID related or not. So far, they're not saying it's COVID related, but just keep an eye on that. So definitely, you want to make sure that he's not going to be out. He's a main guy this week too for you. So definitely make sure he's going to be playing. Dolphins receiver Devontae Parker and Matt Collins and their safety all ejected following an altercation. So we'll see if there's any suspensions handed out for that. Hopefully not. And then Tyler Boyd was also ejected as well in that game. So just keep an eye on that. Brandon Allen, the quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, he left with a chest injury. Frank Gore, starting running back for the Jets, who I just traded for in my Dynasty League just for a 1 week playoff run, has a concussion. So we'll talk about his fill-ins shortly here on our pickups of the week. And then Brandon Cooks left with a concussion, but he did return. But just keep an eye on that too, just in case he does have any other symptoms. And they do need to keep him out this week. Jay Sternberger for the Packers, he left with a concussion as well. And then Joshua Kelly suffered an ankle injury and did not return against the Patriots as well.
Most of those guys no one's starting anyway. So. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it was a good week, though. It was a good week because we didn't have a ton of big injuries coming into the playoffs. Plus, CMC might be back. How about that?
That's huge. I have him in one of my big money leagues, so I'm hoping he comes back for the playoffs this week. But I might have a first week round bye, so it might not matter actually for me.
Right, but he'll be more fresh the week after for you.
Let's
get into our waiver wire, buddy. Who do you have?
There's a couple guys I like this week. Jalen Hurts. He could be a money winner for you if he does start for this week and going forward. He did look very good after he came in the second half for the Eagles. He did have a couple touchdowns. So definitely want to take a look at him if he's out there and if they do announce he's going to start, so keep an eye on that. Ty Johnson, the fill-in for Frank Gore, did have a touchdown and over 100 yards this past week. And then Josh Adams actually looked very good as well. But Ty Johnson is definitely the guy to grab there. I don't think Frank Gore will be cleared in time to come back, but Ty Johnson did look good. So definitely a guy you want to keep in mind. Cam Akers, we talked about him a little bit last week. He's going to be coming back as well. He's a guy you want to take a look at as well. Like he was saying, with Henderson out this week, he looked very good as well for the second week in a row. So definitely take a look at him. Kiki Katute, my D-Nasty sleeper of the week last week, had a huge game. If you did start him and you did listen to me, he paid off for you. 8 receptions, 141 yards, and 9 targets. So I'm going to be hyping him up again this week. Definitely pick him up. He's still out there, only owned in 27% of leagues right now. But another guy from Houston, though, as well, Chad Hansen. This guy came out of nowhere. He came off the practice squad, and he had 5 catches for 101 yards. And they said he did have a good rapport with Watson throughout the game as well. So definitely a guy you might want to take a look at. Guy we might have forgotten about, but it probably is rostered in most leagues, but only says 45% of leagues he's rostered in. Ty Hilton. A guy we were really down on and who hasn't had a good year in like a year and a half probably. He finally had a good game. He looked good. He had 80-plus yards and a touchdown. In the last 2 games, actually, he's done this. So definitely a guy you want to take a look at. I have a bear here, actually, for you, Kiev. Cole Kmet from the Bears. He had one of his best games so far with 5 catches for 37 yards and a touchdown, and he had 7 targets, actually. So he's definitely a guy you want to take a look at as well if you needed help this week. And then a couple other guys, too, I had here was Rashard Higgins. Only owned in 26% of leagues right now. He had 100 yards and a touchdown this week. And Colin Johnson, the rookie for the Jacksonville Jaguars, he's actually getting more playing time now as well, and he looked very good this past week.
Yeah, Cole Kmet, whoop-de-doo. I have the Bears. They're just awful. I have him too. I mean, it's true. I mean, he's used more now. He's probably even used more than what's his face that we got off from the Packers. Jimmy Graham. Yeah, he's probably used more than him now. So I agree. Cam Akers only 53% in leagues. He's going to probably be the biggest pickup this week for sure. If he's not owned in your league, make sure you check that. Robbie Anderson, like you said, for Carolina's COVIDs makes sense. Jalen, it hurts so good to pay Carson Wentz over $100 million on the 4-year extension. Holy cow. I mean, it's embarrassing if they're going to bench Carson Wentz, I tell you. But Jalen Hurts drove down the field, and he's got the legs. You know, he takes off, and that's kind of what it is this year in football. If the guys aren't open, you take off. The quarterback can run, he can run. It's going to put up points. It's crazy. College football, you know, it's been going on like that for years, but now NFL's got it really involved. Like you said, Ty Johnson, great pickup there for Gore. Rashard Higgins, monster week. 9 targets, 95 yards, and a tutty. Alfred Morris, running back for the Giants. He got used a lot last week and got the TD. Will Dissly. Good matchup this week, Dissly has. Seahawks there versus the Jets. Chad Hansen, wide receiver. When Cooks went out, he got a hundy. He got 100 yards last week, so he did well too. Cole Kmet, like you said, 7 targets and a touchdown. James O'Shaughnessy, tight end for the Jags, had 6 targets. So if you're tight end needy, that's not a bad one. One I just saw like an hour ago, Dawson Knox, for a tight end for the Buffalo Bills, got in the end zone. So he's interesting.
Second week in a row, too. He had a touchdown last week as well. So 2 weeks in a row, he scored a touchdown now.
Yeah. So that's not bad. That's really good. And I also have Jared Everett, a tight end. 7 targets I have for Gerald Everett. He could be a decent pickup. But yeah, Dawson Knox really getting in the game. It took a long time. I dropped him in one of my dynasty leagues. I feel pretty bad about that now. Hopefully it turns out for someone. Let's move into our players that have a chance to trend up here to make your fantasy Week 14 playoff victory. Non-starters. And like you said, T.Y. Hilton, man, He was great. 11 targets last week. He's trending up to a starter versus the Raiders D. Heck yeah, what a matchup, right? Giovanni Bernard, running back, versus Dallas's poor defense. Plus, I can't see the Bengals throwing a lot right now. They're just screwing up when they throw the ball. I think they're just going to have to run it a lot more. I like Bernard there. David Montgomery for the Bears versus Houston's run D. Hopefully Nagy will be fired by then, and they actually run the ball and keep running it, like what worked for them against the Lions. Then they get away from it, and all hell broke loose. Ezekiel Elliott, yes, I know he's not a for sure starter, but he's got a great matchup next week versus a bad Bengals defense. I like Zeke next week. Brashard Perryman versus Seattle's pass D. Seattle's got a bad pass D. The Jets are dying for a victory. Will Dissly, like I said, Jets are the worst team versus tight ends in the whole league. So I had to mention that one. Will Dissly. And Mark Andrews, too. People forgot about Mark Andrews because he's having an off year. He was hurt a little bit, too, I believe. It was either hurt or COVID. I can't remember.
No, it's COVID. He's out with COVID.
Okay, I think he's back this week. And monitor that. But, they're playing the Cowboys tomorrow. This is for next week. He should be back. The Browns are the second worst team against tight ends. So Mark Andrews will have a great game against the Browns. Mike Williams, wide receiver, has a good matchup versus the Falcons pass D. And James O'Shaughnessy has a good matchup versus the Titans. The Titans ain't that great against the pass or against tight ends. And I want to surprise you, Dave. Chris Godwin, wide receiver versus Minnesota's pass D. He's finally going to make an appearance this week.
I like it.
Tyler Boyd, and this is weird because you think that Joe Burrow being out, but even though Allen or Finley is going to be throwing to him, they're still playing the Dallas Cowboys. He had a touchdown last week. He's still going to get some targets. I think he's just going to be better than most people think. I wouldn't start him over anybody big, but if you're desperate, he's not a bad look against the Cowboys D. And then, of course, Justin Jefferson, wide receiver, versus Tampa Bay's bad pass D. And Kirk Cousins seems to really love that receiver, especially if Thielen's still out. That would be a must start if Thielen's still out, Dave.
No, Thielen was back this week, actually, so he's back already.
All right, well, Jefferson had a great week last week. I didn't notice too much of the Vikings game. Who are your players trending up?
All right, great. Well, I wanted to just touch base too. Logan Thomas had 9 catches for 90-plus yards and a touchdown in tonight's game. So definitely one of the top tight ends you should be looking at this week for a pickup. I know we discussed quite a few other tight ends, but definitely him. Peyton Barber, if Gibson is out next week, he's the one who got all the carries after he left today as well. So 2 more guys for the waiver wire pickups you want to take a look at. And I'll add Logan Thomas to my trending up this week too as well. He's been playing well. 49ers, they've been playing well on defense, but the tight ends can expose them, so I do like that matchup here. I do like whoever's starting at quarterback this week against the Eagles. Eagles have not looked good. Their defense is in shambles right now. I do like Latavius Murray this week against the Eagles as well. Their defense doesn't stop anyone against the run as well. So I do like Taysom Hill, or Drew Brees could possibly be back this week as well, just to make a note of that and check your lineups too. Brees is reportedly due to be back this week, so definitely if he's in there, plug him back in right away. Good matchup for him this week. I do like Phillip Rivers this week against the Raiders' poor defense, and Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is probably starting in most of the leagues right now after his last couple of good weeks. But he did struggle earlier in the year, so definitely put Taylor in there this week against the poor Raiders' defense. I am starting Ty Johnson against the Seahawks, even though they have a good run defense. I do like this matchup this week. I think Ty Johnson could have a good game. Sam Darnold, I think, could have a good game as well against the Seahawks. I'm not saying an excellent game. I'm just saying he'll get you 200, 250 yards, a couple touchdowns possibly. Solid enough to help you win a playoff game if you're in desperate need of a quarterback, but definitely not starting him if I have better options as well. And then I do like Teddy Bridgewater against the Broncos this week, especially with CMC back. I think that's only going to help him. I like Darnell Mooney against the poor Texans defense as a nice sleeper this week. I got him trending up as well. And then I do like the Giants this week against the Cardinals. I do like Gallman. He's been having great week after week. I think he's trending up right now as well against the Cardinals. Jefferson, I think he is the rookie of the year, definitely. You definitely starting him already, if not. you definitely got to start him this week against the Buccaneers. And I do like Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin. I like both of them this week against the poor Vikings defense as well.
All right, some agreement there. I don't like Ty Johnson starting, though. The Seahawks still have that number 3 or 2, whatever, run D. So, and I think the Seahawks are going to be pissed. I think they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. Maybe they throw some to Ty Johnson. That would help, right? But
Godwin put up 133 yards against them on the Giants.
You know what? That was a 1-game sample size. I'm going to go by what they did all year. So start him at your own risk, but I'm not going to. That's for sure. I'm going to go into busts. Devin Singletary versus Pittsburgh's run D. And he had a great night tonight against San Fran, but I'd say good night tonight. It was mostly Josh Allen whipping that ball. He had a good night tonight, but Pittsburgh's going to shut him down, especially after that loss. Damian Harris versus the Rams run D for the Patriots. I don't like his matchup. Antonio Gibson is hurt, but if he plays, I don't love him versus the Niners D, in a little bit of a letdown spot too, that team. Miles Sanders running back versus the Saints D. I think that Sanders has just not been that good this year, and the Saints D is the worst thing that he could face. If you are a playoff team and you start Miles Sanders, don't be surprised if there's a single digit next to that number this week. Dave, I don't know if Drew Brees is coming back. I'd be surprised if he does, but if he doesn't, then I have Michael Thomas as a bust. He hasn't been doing good because of Taysom Hill. You just had a 100-yard game this past week. Well, in general, I'm saying. 2 of the last 3 weeks, he's had 100-yard games. Well, that was against Atlanta. Philly's D is actually a lot better against the pass than Atlanta's is. Atlanta's like 3rd or 4th worst against the pass. Okay? Now, if Breeze starts, then yeah, Michael Thomas, you have to start him anyway. But I just don't like him in this matchup personally. So, good. I mean, good point. He made a lot of yards, but he worries me. He worries me this week. Devontae Booker / Josh Jacobs against Indianapolis's run D. Indianapolis can be beat off the pass, but the run it's a lot harder. So I don't like any of those guys. And Josh Jacobs is still banged up. So you're kind of wondering and scratching your head who to start there. Ugh, that's a tough one, right? Yeah. Cam Newton versus the Rams. I don't like Cam Newton versus the Rams this week. They got their big win against the Chargers. Big misleading score. And I just don't like him against the Rams, Dave. Who are your busts?
I had a lot of the same ones you did, actually. I agree with you on a lot of the ones that you had. One of the sleepers this week, too, I do have is the Lazard against the Lions. He's coming around now. He's starting to get a little bit healthy the last couple of weeks he's been playing, so I do like him as a sleeper this week against the Lions. But I'll talk about that more shortly here. But the guys I do not like this week is Cam Newton. He's been struggling. He only had 69 yards passing this past week, and he's going up against a tough Rams D-line. I do not like Cam Newton this week or Damian Harris. Either against the tough Rams defense. I'm going to say I do not like the Dolphins actually this week. The Chiefs actually have a pretty good, better defense than most people think. I'm downgrading Tua, and I'm downgrading Myles Gaskin as well for the Dolphins this week against a tough Chiefs defense. I'm downgrading David Johnson this week against the Bears defense. I think they can stop the run still. I don't know. They're not stopping many teams, though, after their 7-game slide here. So, but I definitely think that David Johnson, I'm downgrading him this week against that defense. I'm going to have to agree with you. I think I'm going to have to change my mind, actually. I'm going to downgrade Ty Johnson, actually, against the Seahawks. After thinking about it more, that is a good play. I think downgrading Ty Johnson, but if he does start, he is a viable starter, though, still possibly. But I think he could struggle against the tough Seahawks D, like you said. But we'll see. I'm still a little bit jaded on that one, so I don't know. We'll see about that one. I'm definitely downgrading the Raiders, like you said too. They're both either running back that starts and Derek Carr. Colts have a tough defense, even though they're playing at Las Vegas. I still don't like that matchup for them. Alex Smith, I'm definitely downgrading him and any running back for the Washington playing against the 49ers against that D. I'm agree with you on that Miles Sanders pick too. I don't like him against the tough Saints D. Even if Jalen Hurts or Wentz against the Saints D too, even against the pass, they've been playing a lot better lately too as well. So I'm definitely downgrading them. And Devin Singletary, I agree with you on that one as well. And I'm actually going to downgrade Baker Mayfield this week, even though he had a huge monster week this past week. I think they're due for a letdown now, and against a tough Ravens defense too. Ravens are in must-win mode now. They must win tomorrow and next week to get back into the playoff hunt. So I'm downgrading Baker Mayfield as well next week.
Well, hopefully Baker's not feeling dangerous when he wakes up then, when he plays the Ravens. I mean, he's played dangerously when he's played the Ravens over the years, so that's an interesting situation here. That's the team that they got to get over the hump, but I don't know if I see it happening. The Ravens are pissed and they're getting healthy. Cleveland's feeling high and mighty, so we'll see what happens there. I agree with that, so I definitely agree. Who is your nasty sleeper of the week, my man? It's going to win your fantasy football playoffs.
I'm going with Allen Lazard. I think he's due. He's been back for a couple weeks now. He's building back up the strength. He had a couple nice catches this past week. I'm going with Allen Lazard as my D-Nasty sleeper of the week this week against the poor Detroit Lions.
Allen Lazard. Nice pick, man. Well, mine is going for a person we both said, and he plays for the Colts, T.Y. Hilton. He's a starter now. You got to put him in, and he's going to have a great matchup on the turf in the Dome against the Raiders. I can see him going off. The Raiders' defense is terrible. You saw the Jets put up all those points against them. You saw Atlanta beat them up. The Raiders are kind of on a nice little downslide right now, and I can just see T.Y. whooping him up a little bit. I expect him to get a lot of points, so that's my nasty sleeper, Dave.
I like it.
All right. Well, anything last to add for Fantasy Football Week 14?
Yes, I just wanted to follow up on our bet with Raheem Mostert. He didn't look good again this weekend, last week as well. I don't think he's going to be in that top tier like you thought for the running backs here. So I just wanted to throw that in there, a little parting shot here.
Oh, well, Godwin still sucks too, so whatever. Yeah, no, he's definitely, he was injured most of the year, but the Niners lost everybody. They're just a shell of themselves. I mean, the only reason that they're kind of running out of fumes right now is just how good Kyle Shanahan is. So good call on that one, Dave. All right. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you have any questions for us, please feel free to tweet us at the Odds Breakers. Have a great rest of your week. Go win in your fantasy football playoffs and go get some winners.